What is going on, guys? It's the Mad Dragon. We're back doing another and final preview video for this weekend. There's only 2 games on this week. We've already done the one for Wales versus the Wallabies, going to be going on at the start of this weekend. Only 2 games to cover as we've come to the end of the Autumn Nations. But of course, guys, what we do in these videos, we check out the teams that have been announced. We have a run through them, who's some good picks, some bad picks, maybe think about some team tactics that might be going on in this game, and then finally move on to do the score prediction. If you enjoy this video, make sure to subscribe to the channel and drop it a like, because this game is a big one. England versus South Africa, a redo of what we got to see in that World Cup final like 3 years ago now. We're a year out now from the next World Cup. I believe the way the pools work, this could be a final again. I feel like that is actually a potential opportunity to come round. So a big game. Both these teams will want to end their year on a high note. Who should we talk about first? Let's talk about England first of all. So England last week, of course, played New Zealand in a very weird game. An odd game where basically they lost the game for like 70 minutes and then decided in the final 10 minutes they were going to do, some of the best rugby I've seen from them this year, and managed to bring that game all the way back to finishing a draw. And along the way, also missed kicks to post, so they could have won. Just a really weird game, not really what we expected going on in that one. So England this week have got like a lot of stuff to build on, but also they'll be really happy with that final result they had in that draw. Very, very bizarre for them. So let's have a look at the England team that has been announced. Starting off in this front row, where there's been some big calls. Mako Vunipola comes in alongside Jamie George, and Kyle Sinclair's the only man to retain that position in the front row. Now, this is a big call here. I really feel like Cowan-Dickie and Ellis Genge have been doing very well throughout this autumn series. Ellis Genge especially has grown on me a lot recently in terms of the way he's been playing. Scrummaging work for him has been extremely good. I don't know whether they're trying to set up for the concept of what we see with South Africa, how they come on in the second half and then really begin to dominate in the scrum. Maybe they've technically tried to put strong scrummagers on in the second half to try and sort of nullify that attack out. But Mako Vunipola, Jamie George, these lads have been coming on in the second half in games, and the scrum has gone downhill. There are penalties given away. Mako Vunipola has been a bit of a crux throughout the year, to be fair. Penalties given away at scrum time, things not going well for them. I don't know what good it does you bringing on your big scrummagers in the second half if in the first half you paint a picture to the referee that we can't handle the scrums. If you lose 6 scrums in the first half, bringing on the new boys in the second half doesn't suddenly make the referee get on side with you. He's expecting you to be under pressure. So the smallest thing goes wrong, you get penalised. Maybe I would have liked to have seen them stay on here. I would have liked to see that front row stay the same. Ellis Genge of Luke Cowan-Dickie and Cal Sinclair on the front row. But we'll have to see how those switch-ups mix around. In the lock department, Maro Itoje goes in alongside a Johnny Hill. Now, we did get to see this last week. Line-out situation was, doing okay for England last week. I think having both these lads in the lock department's been good. We know we've seen Itoje move to that flanker position a couple of times. I personally would keep him at 4 for this game. South Africa love a good line-out. So I think having both these lads in the lock department is a good move. In the back row, Alex Coles comes in, starting in that number 6 shirt. Tom Curry retains 7, and Billy Vunipola goes in at 8. They really haven't settled this back row yet. There's been a lot of swaps every week. They've really tried Sam Simmons at 8 or 6 or move them around and try different people. I don't think they've got that quite set yet. And even last week's game, there was times where these lads just weren't performing. We've had a number of penalties go against Billy Vunipola, like consecutive penalties as well in that first half. Just not giving them any ground to work with. Normally from these lads where you see such big ball carrying, tackling, jackling, that's what you want to see from your back rows. I don't think we've really got to see that yet this autumn tournament, so we'll have to see how they get on. In the halfback partnership, Van Poortvliet comes in alongside Marcus Smith. I've learned how to say his name basically correct now because I heard him say it. I have seen a couple of comments saying, you pronounce his name really weirdly. Well, I've listened to the man himself now say his own surname. So Van Poortvliet will remain there in the 9 shirt. Marcus Smith at 10. We've seen this a lot now. I think it's a good move. I've said it in other preview videos before. Keep him on instead of Ben Youngs. I think the speed, the recycling, much better from him. Looking for the sniping runs himself. I would stick with him for now. In the centre partnership, Owen Farrell alongside Manu Tuilagi. So they've gone down the more sort of set route we've seen from England in the past. 10, 12, Farrell, Smith, and then you have your Manu Tuilagi at 13, who didn't make an enormous impact in last week's game. Not going to lie, came off quite early for what I was expecting. We didn't really see him making too many meters with the ball in hand. The first half was a bit lackadaisical. So I want a better game this weekend, I think. I think you'll want to actually still improve on that, especially building towards, a World Cup team next year. And you've got to be performing at high standards. And then in the back three, Johnny May, Tommy Freeman, and Freddie Stewart. Now, Freddie Stewart still playing well. He's just been doing well all year, to be fair. I think he's been one of the real standout players that's come into this England team so far. Johnny May had a good game in terms of the chase ball last week. Not really, getting himself over for a bunch of tries or what have you, but chase kicking is Johnny May's doing okay at. Fitness is going well. He's leaned out. He's chasing the ball a lot now. Aerial battles will be a big thing in this game. We did see last week, of course, the crossfield kick tactic coming in from New Zealand, absolutely decimating in that England, backs. They just didn't know how to cope with it. So I think this week they'll want to be more aware of that aerial threat. I don't even think England were necessarily winning a lot of the aerial threats. Freddie Stewart's probably their main jumper at the minute. South Africa do like their kicking, slightly different kicking. They do more box kicking as opposed to cross-field kicks. But chips over the top, we saw how fast England were trying to get off the line. If you have that blitz defence, you leave big gaps behind you. There's a number of South African players that know how to do little chip chases and stuff. The high ball is an area they really try and win a lot. So going to be a big battle in this one to see how they cope in the air. On to the replacements then. We've already named a couple of names down here. Luke Cowan-Dickie, Ellis Genge, and Will Stewart will be going on this week. They've mixed up that replacement tight head a lot. Will Stewart, I think, is probably the right name to stay there at the minute. Rest of the replacement forwards, David Ribbans and Sam Simmonds. So 5-3 on the bench. They obviously not entirely sure how they want to play this game or how South Africa are going to bring this game. The 6-2 is normally the better defense, I always think, against South Africa just because of how much they use their forwards. If you're going for the 5-3 split, you've got to keep that ball on the park, running round, try and fatigue your opposition out, have your replacement backs come on, add a bit more energy later into the game. That's what you want to be seeing. But England at times do get stuck in their forward, so not always the most helpful if you have the 5-3. And then the replacement backs, Ben Youngs, Henry Slade, and Jack Nowell. Now, some good coverage in this back set here. Henry Slade came on last week. Where did he come on? It was like in the wing or something. I remember thinking it was like that's an odd place for him to come on, but he's a good player when he comes on. Offers another person to do little kick tactics and running and distributing. So I think that's a good move. Jack Nowell can come on in that back line, of course, winger. But worst comes to worst, he's also quite good. You can chuck him in that forward shirt. We have seen him get in on the number 8 and stuff before. So maybe they're trying to use Jack Nowell a bit like a replacement forward as well there. But it's just not maybe have quite the same impact when it comes to forward battle breakdown situations. But you can chuck him in a set piece, which is very useful. On to South Africa then, who last week played Italy and came away with a pretty convincing win. By the end, the scoreboard looking very good in their favour. About half time though, very different story. Italy really keeping that scoreboard close. I did jump in on a couple of streams and what people were doing about the South Africa game. I wasn't able to watch it because I was busy watching Wales just lose to Georgia. So that was punishing to watch for me. But it seemed like a lot of people had a lot of comments. People were quite happy about Libbok coming on. A couple of people weren't that happy with the way Mostert was playing a flanker. A lot of people wanted to see different people in there. Of course, Steph du Toit still out with his red card, so he's still on that ban list. But I think overall, in terms of the final result scoreboard, everything's looking good for South Africa. They're going into this game more on top, I would probably say. Not as many as concerns as maybe England are bringing to it. So, in terms of the team that has been announced, no change in this front row. We know what these boys bring. We see their names a lot. Such people like Oxen Che, Franz Malherbe. I do really like this front row. I know I always talk about I want to see Malcolm Marx play more, but I really like this as just a starting front row. Malcolm Marx going on that second half, fresh off the bench, is such a ferocious player. I think it actually works really well to bring him on from the bench, but he's absolutely the sort of player that would start for most teams. On to the lock department then. Etzebeth comes back in on his number 4 shirt, and Ori retains his 5 shirt this week, so must have impressed last week versus Italy. Back row, Sia Khaleesi retains the captaincy alongside Franco Mostert, and Evan Roos comes in instead of Jasper Wiese. That's a big call. He's a big guy who likes to carry the ball in hand. Evan Roos is one of those lads who we heard so much about building up throughout this year. We can't wait for his Springboks shirt. Let's get him into the game. Let's do stuff. I don't really feel we've seen a lot of caps from him yet, not a lot of game time. So really looking forward to see what he can do, especially from a starting position against a team like England in Twickenham. Should be a really big performance from him. In the halfback partnership, Faf de Klerk remains alongside Damien Valemsa. Both these lads doing well. I really feel like Hendrikse did well in the start of the year, especially going across the Rugby Championship. Faf de Klerk in the past couple of weeks, though, has been playing really well. So I kind of would like to see Faf de Klerk stay there. I think that's a good move. He was absolutely, an instrumental player in so much of South Africa, but he's been doing well against big teams. I think, experience, number of caps behind him, way he likes to play the game, really likes to get under people's skin. I like that from him, so I would keep him there for me. In the centre partnership, Damien Dialende comes in alongside Jesse Creel, so no Esterhazen, who was playing last week. People seem relatively happy with Esterhazen. That was one of the big talking points, actually, which I was quite surprised about how he was coping in holding that centre position, but apparently he was doing pretty well, so nice to hear that. But I'm sure a lot of people will be very happy to see Dialende move back to that inside centre position and have someone like Jesse Creel come in. I think Jesse Creel's a good player. Bakazoli Mpimpi comes in on the left wing, a name I feel like we haven't got to say a lot across this autumn series. Kurt Lee Rense on the right wing and Willy Leroux in that fullback position. So no Cheslin Colby this week. I do believe he's still out with a bit of an injury, so time for some other people to show off. Kurt Lee Rense is another one, though, who likes to get himself in the air. He's got a good step on him. Aerial battle will be going in. In terms of kicking duties then, I imagine Damien Valemsa is going to be taking the kicking duties, especially with no Colby around. They were really trying to get Colby to be the kick taker for them. So I assume he'll be taking over duties in that regard. In terms of the replacements then, Malcolm Marks goes in alongside Stephen Kitchoff and Thomas Dutoit. This is a good set of lads to bring on in that front row again. Forwards is not really an issue South Africa has at the minute. These boys like to get on the stage and have big scrummaging. I feel like England will want to keep that ball in the scrum, especially in that first half, just to see who's going to win it. But I feel like I might be giving the edge here to South Africa. In terms of the rest of the replacement forwards, then Marco van Staden comes in alongside Quagga Smith, the man who just makes such an impact from the bench in every game. So nice to see him still in there. Also going for the 5-3 split. We might be seeing an open game, guys. It might be getting to open up. We might see neither team holding on through the forwards. We might be able to get to see a bit of a repeat of what we saw in that World Cup final with teams using their wingers, getting over for tries and stuff. Hopefully that is the way it goes, because I much more enjoy that sort of game. And then the replacement backs, Hendrikse alongside of Livok. So many people looking forward to see him again. And then finally Cannon Moody coming in there. So overall, this is a good South Africa team. They played a lot of games in the last sort of 2-3 months. And the teams remained relatively consistent. They've done occasional swaps out here and there for bench players and starting players, but overall they've done pretty well at holding on to them, especially with some injury concerns they've had. But overall, I think this is a pretty good South Africa team. So, in terms of a score prediction, what do we think, guys? Massive game, World Cup reunion. We get to do it again. What do we think? I think I'm going to go the way of South Africa on this one. I feel like the performance we got to see for that open 50-60 minutes for England just was so out of character, really, but it really wasn't good. There's so much for them to work on. It with just a week to do it. South Africa will be coming in, hopes high. They'll be feeling good after that win over Italy. And this South Africa team themselves were able to beat New Zealand, when we did the Rugby Championship, compared to England, who managed to sort of climb back to getting a draw. So for me, I'm going to say South Africa to win. I'm going to say by 4. I'm going to say South Africa to win by 4. That's going to be my prediction, guys. But of course, make sure you do drop down in the comment section your thoughts on the games, your thoughts on the teams, and finally, your score prediction. Guys, I hope you've enjoyed all of these preview videos over the course of the Autumn Nations. There's been so many games to cover, so hopefully you guys have enjoyed. And if you have, remember to leave this video a like and subscribe to the channel, because we will be doing the match reports on the weekend. So make sure you are subscribed to know when those videos go live. I will see you all next time, guys. Bye-bye.